Hello everyone, welcome back for our second geography lesson this half term where we're going to be continuing to learn our raging rivers theme. And you can see from our ICANN today that we're going to be spreading out our knowledge a little bit. And last lesson, you'll remember we were thinking about the key rivers in the UK and you did some excellent research and some fact finding using your map skills to do that. Today, we're going to be, as I say, spreading out a little bit because today we're going to be thinking about the key rivers of the world. Okay, and when I say key rivers, what I mean by that is perhaps some of the most important rivers or the main rivers in the world. Okay, so before we think about that, then I'd like to think about some of the key vocab that we thought about last week. Now, as I said to you, I'm going to be introducing some new geography words to you each week, and today we're going to learn some more new geography words. So let's just check we can remember what the ones that we learnt last week. So what is the source of the river? Can you remember? Yes, well done. The source of the river is the place where the river starts. And usually that starts in quite high land. Okay, so it might be in a mountain or the top of a hill, perhaps. And we know that the river will start where it can travel downhill. Okay, and it's the movement of that river that makes it a river. Okay, it's forever moving on its course. So we know the source of the river is the place where the river starts. And I know that you used your Google Map skills last week to find out lots and lots of different sources of rivers and different places where they begin in the UK. So that leads us in quite nicely to the second question then. What is the mouth of the river? Portsmouth. Can you remember? Well done. This is the part of the river where it flows into the sea, and it's usually at the mouth of the river. It's the widest point of the river. Okay, it's usually at fairly flat land, which is why the river has widened out. And this is the part of the river where it stops being a river and it enters into the sea. And again, you did lots of research about that as well. So, I think we've already answered this question, haven't we? Where do rivers most start? Most rivers start in high ground, okay, higher up so that they can travel downland. And then finally, do all rivers flow into the sea? No, you're right. Some rivers might flow into other rivers, or they might flow into a lake, perhaps. Okay, so not all rivers do end up at the sea, as some of them can join on to other rivers, and we're going to think about that as for a new piece of vocab today. Okay, so moving into our new learning, then we're going to begin this lesson by thinking about one of probably the most important or famous rivers in the UK. And both of these pictures here show part of the River Thames, which I'm sure some of you may have visited or have heard of, because that's the main river in London. So the River Thames is a very famous river because, first of all, it runs through the capital city of the UK. It flows through London. And you can see in this map image here, we can see the main part of the River Thames takes many bends and turns, but also we can see that lots of other rivers come off it as well. And we can see from this satellite image, this shows a different part of the River Thames. We can see the main body of the river here, again taking those twists and turns, but we can also see other rivers starting to come off it. So there's our new pieces of vocab today. Okay, these parts that come off of a main body of river are called tributaries. Okay, so they're the parts of the river that branch off and begin to form new rivers, and some of them have their own names as well. So they are called tributaries. Okay, so there's a new piece of vocab there. And the other new piece of vocab that we're going to be learning today is this word here, confluence. And that, as you can see from my pink arrow here, that is the exact place where the river joins. Okay, so we can see this tributary joins onto the River Thames, and this exact place where it joins into the main river is called the confluence. Okay, so another 2 new pieces of vocab today, and those pieces of vocab are going to become quite important for our research today. Okay, so we've looked a little bit at the River Thames, and as I've said, that one's quite an important river. Firstly, because it's the main river that flows through London, okay, and that's our capital city of the UK. But the reason that the River Thames is quite a key river, not just for the UK but for the world, is because the River Thames, particularly back in history, was used as quite an important mode of transport. So it was a very important river used for trading. And if we look back at history, we can see that many of the UK's imports, the things that were brought in to our country from other countries, travelled into the City of London through the River Thames. So the river has been a really important part of the UK for many, many years. And before we had all of our important road links and perhaps sky links with planes as well, the river was the main part of trading for the UK. Okay, so for that reason, we can see just how important that river has been in the past to our country. So let's widen our knowledge then. Let's start to think about some other rivers in the world. So I've been doing a little bit of research for you, and you can see I've got some names of some rivers here: the River Amazon, the River Congo, the River Mississippi, the River Ob, and the River Nile. I'm sure you've heard of some of these rivers already. Now, the reason that I've picked these rivers is because these are the names of some really key rivers, some important rivers from around the world. And they're important for many different reasons. And it might be because of their size, it might be because of their history, like the River Thames, or it might be for other reasons. And that's where your research is going to come in today. So you can see my research, I've picked out some key facts about these 5 rivers, and I've been able to identify the length of the river and the discharge. Now again, 2 pieces of vocab here that it's going to be important to understand. So the length of the river tells us how long the river is from source, right at the beginning of the river, all the way to the end of the river, to its mouth. Okay, and these rivers have been measured in kilometres. Okay, so remember, kilometres means 1,000 metres. Okay, so we can see that the River Amazon from beginning to end is 6,437 kilometres in length, and actually that's one of the longest rivers in the world. Using this table, can you find out which river is the longest river in the world? Well done. The River Nile is in fact the longest river in the world. So the River Nile is a key river, not just for its length, and as you do some research you'll find out why, but we know that the River Nile at 6,853 kilometres long is the longest river than any other river in the world. Okay, and you can see some other key rivers here that aren't quite so long, but are still very, very long in their length. But you can also see that discharge is also an important measurement when it comes to measuring rivers. And that word means the amount of water that's flowing through the river at a given point. And this piece of information here is at the mouth of the river. So at the point where the River Amazon meets the sea, you can see that there are 209,000 cubic meters of water per second traveling through into the sea. Okay, so what this means is the amount of water, the amount of cubic meters of water that is traveling through into the sea every second. So hopefully that gives you an idea. 209,000 is a massive amount of water moving every second in the River Amazon. And you can see that number is much, much bigger than any of these other numbers here. So while it's not the longest river in the world, it is the river with the most amount of flowing water. Okay, and that's why the Amazon River is such a famous river as well. But again, it's not the only reason. There's lots of other reasons as to why the Amazon River is so famous. Okay, you can see the River Congo is 4,700 kilometers in length, but 41,000 cubic meters per second of water travels through it. So quite a big difference between the Amazon River. So I wonder why this river is so famous, why it is a key river. I wonder which country it's in. I wonder what other pieces of information I could find out about that river, perhaps, or even the Mississippi, or even the River Ob or the River Nile. So that's your task for today. Today, you are going to be using the internet, or if you've got some books about rivers at home, you can use those as well, but probably mainly the internet to be able to find out about one of those key rivers. Okay, so I want you to choose one of these 5 rivers. Okay, and it doesn't matter which one you choose, it might just be the one that you've heard something about before, it might be that you know a little bit about it already, or it might be that it's a brand new river that you've never heard of, so you want to find out something completely new about it. Okay, and I just want you to choose one. And I've got some key questions. You'll find these questions here on the Google Drive to help you. And I want you to just take some notes about the river that you've chosen. Now, you're going to have to do some internet searches on Google to be able to help you to find out the answers to these questions. You might want to type these questions into Google. And you can see you're not going to have enough space on this page to write down your answers to these questions. So jot down your answers to these questions on a separate piece of paper, okay? But by doing these questions and by doing this research, you are going to find out some key facts about your chosen river, and you're going to start to realise why this river is an important river in the world, okay, through answering these questions. Once you've jotted down your answers to each of these questions, I want you to present your answers, okay? And by doing that, I'd love you to create an informative poster about your chosen river. And you can see I've provided some examples here to help you. So in order to be an effective poster, it needs to be bright, it needs to be colourful, but it also needs to give us information. And the information that you give us in your poster will hopefully be your answers to these questions that you've created here. So if I zoom into this River Nile poster that you can see has been created, you can see it's got a bit of a title, it's got a bit of a picture of the river, which you might want to include in your poster, but it also tells me the key information. I can see which country it's in. I can see some key towns that it might pass through, and I've even got some key fact boxes here which I can find out a little bit more about the River Nile. Okay, so I don't want to spoil that for you because I'm sure some of you will choose the River Nile as your river. Okay, you could produce your poster on the computer like this one has been produced if you want to. You could hand draw your poster like this one has been produced. It's completely up to you. Okay, but I want you to inform other people about your chosen river using your research questions to help you. Okay, and then hopefully everybody in the year group will choose one of these rivers, and then we can find out lots and lots about those key rivers of the world. Okay, have fun. Can't wait to see your posters. Don't forget to share them with us. Take care for now. See you soon.